What I'm about to share with you today is what my students call gold, because this is actually my answer. I always answer the same thing to the frequently asked question, what can I do to stay motivated even if I have such a busy life? I actually always respond this. You need to start to create a study routine that allows you to integrate the new language into your life. It needs to become part of your life, and this in only 5 minutes per day. And today I'm so happy to actually invite you to a 7-day challenge. Please join me. I will respond to every comment that you may ask. The 7-day challenge basically will allow you in only 7 days to switch around little steps that actually allow you to have two things in place that are so crucial for the perfect study routine to become finally fluent, which is number one, you need to have a study routine that is tailored to your life. There is no one best magic method that will do the trick for you. You need to adapt it to your individual, unique life. This is one of the most frequent errors that I see as well, because people think there's this magic method that you can just take off the shelf, apply, and that's it. The method actually is to make it unique to your life. That is what the Everyday Nano Method does. It actually accepts that you can only have success in becoming fluent if you adapt it to your own life. That's the first critical success factor. And the second one is actually it needs to be brain friendly. We are human beings. We are not robots. We cannot memorize endless vocabulary lists where we can. But what we create with that is suffering, obligation, procrastination, overwhelm. That's what I had a lot. I had so much overwhelm, especially with English, because I thought I need to be perfect at studying these vocabulary before I can even have the permission to speak. And that's not the case at all. So I so much get it when students ask me that, because actually there's so many hidden kind of myths or kind of taken for granted things that we all think that this is the way how it's done, that we need to just throw overboard because they don't apply to language learning. I mean, babies are the best language learners. They just learn it naturally. And that is the way we need to go. We need to actually accept we're human beings, and fluency is only achieved if we integrate it naturally in a nice and joyful way into our lives. And believe me, dear language learners, I have been there myself. I have now begun to study my fifth language. And in the last 40 years of studying languages, I have learned so much in terms of errors because I've done them all. I mean, my first language, English, it took me 10 years because I made all the errors possible. So what I want you to how can I say this? What I want you to benefit from is this. I mean, I have been there. I want to share with you. So, in order for you not to fall in the same classic pitfalls of language learning. So, join me. And please, if you're ready to take on the 7-day challenge, drop a little comment, write in the comment, yes, I'm in, and also say your goal. And over the course of the next 7 days, write to me how it's going for you. I'm going to respond to every comment. So join me. We're going to start right now. Hi. I'm Dr. Alex. I'm a social psychologist, and on this channel, I help you to become fluent and speak with unshakable confidence. And now, if you're in for the 7-day challenge, what we're going to do is I'm going to take you now through these 7 little tweaks, little habit changes or mindset changes. And please take note of them, or basically save this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, save this video so that you can do one step in the next, so one step each, I want to say, in the next 7 days. I challenge you to do that and to let me know how it's going, because all these steps I'm going to present to you are actually speaking from experience, and they make such a difference for me. They make the whole language learning process for me so much more relaxed, actually. And it's kind of like an inner peace to know that fluency will happen without me forcing, stressing, or like studying or spending even more hours and creating just an obligation and procrastination. Okay, here we go. If you're ready. So, number one of these little habit changes is you need to, first of all, and that's your challenge for the first day, you need to find your enjoyment anchor. What is an enjoyment anchor? The anchor is basically what we go back to every day. Even though we have a very busy life, a very maybe hectic day, this little anchor always makes us want to go back to. And that is the main thing you need to have in place, first of all, because otherwise, on the hectic day, you will just say, oh, I want to skip. Of course, the self-compassion principle also is in place. So, of course, you can say, I skip this day because I'm feeling ill or I'm not well. That's fine. We need to all be self-compassionate. But on normal hectic days, and I mean, I have learned all my four languages next to a very busy life. So I was actually, while I was studying French, I was actually doing a very, very intense day of 10 hours work per day, and still was able to integrate French into my everyday routine. So I got fluent within 3 years. So the enjoyment anchor, what is it? It is actually something that you need to identify in your life what you like doing. So these 5 minutes a day that you're going to reserve for language learning needs to be attached to something that makes you feel good. Only then you can always want to go back to it. For me, and this is essential for those days that I just feel, oh, I can't do it, or where I just feel tired because I work a lot, what I do is basically I anchor my language learning practice to either when I walk my dog, because that is something I really enjoy. It's one of my passions, being with my dog. Or I anchor it to being in nature or to sports. I usually anchor it to movement because I realized for me it works so well. Whenever I move while I'm learning or while I'm kind of acquiring the language, it really sticks. First of all, because, and this is, please also check out my previous videos on why positive emotion always has our brain go, oh, this is really great. I want to go back to that. That's so good. I mean, it activates something in your brain that will say, I want to learn this because it's fun. So identify, this is my advice for you to find your personal enjoyment anchor. It's basically identify something that makes you feel good. It can be also several things. If you don't have the one big thing, you can also have small little things. I also at the moment, I acquire a lot of Italian while I'm cooking. Because whilst I'm cooking, listening, doing that listening practice, it actually really relates to what I'm actually doing because I love listening to cooking videos in Italian. So that's just an example out of my life. So what I'm saying here as well is it needs to be absolutely unique to your life. It needs to be something that you like. I mean, if for me the dog walking works, it doesn't need to work for you. You know what I mean? So identify that enjoyment anchor for you, and please drop me a comment what it is that makes you come back every time to the language learning. So that's number one. Do that little tweak on day number one. Number two, and this is what I invite you to do on day number two, is basically also this is actually a mindset shift. It's kind of in your daily 5 minutes. I mean, that is what I already take for granted, right? You don't study more than 5 minutes a day. If you want to go more because you enjoy it so much, of course you can. Because in terms of starting, it's always important to say only 5 minutes. Okay, in these 5 minutes, you need to have one principle in place in terms of how you think about it. It is difference is the key. So It can't be always the same. If you did yesterday, so in my case, if I did yesterday with the dog walking, listening to a YouTube video that told me how I need to say basic words of interrogation in Italian, I can't be doing the same content tomorrow because that creates monotony, it creates boredom, it creates this feeling of, oh, it's always the same, it's not really enjoyment. The brain learns quicker when you have something new every day. So the 5 minutes per day that is linked to your personal enjoyment anchor needs to have as a principle that it's always a little bit different. It always includes something else. So for me, if I'm on one day I do listening, next day I will just do repetitions. I just pick one sentence, repeat it out loud in 5 minutes. And then the third day I would possibly just read something, and the next day I will speak to my dog in Italian. If you see what I mean, it needs to be 5 minutes, but then it kind of needs to be what I call flexi smart. So it can't be always the same thing. If it's not flexible, it's not smart, because if you go like every day the same thing, like for example, in many courses, I see this problem. In every language course, they're doing little grammar exercises that have the same feel to them. It's basically the feeling is opening a book and filling in blank spaces in a sentence. That is really boring. The act of doing that is really boring. You need to have fascinating new things every day. And my advice to you is use all the media that we have on our fingertips at the moment. Choose something exciting every day. That's the second one. So this one I want you to focus on the second day. And you can do this by basically writing down on a piece of paper what are the 3 things that will interest you in the next 3 days. So you have always a different kind of activity. And please drop a comment if you want inspiration. I'm so happy to reply because, as I said on this YouTube channel, we want to share experience and lift each other up. So that was number 2, this flexi smart element of a little bit different every day. Now, number 3, and this is what I want you to focus on the third day, is you need to also shift the way in which you talk about language learning. Stop calling it, I mean, completely ban this from your way of talking about what you're doing. Stop calling it studying or memorizing vocabulary, because this puts your brain already into, oh, this will be a studying task, so it must be obligation, so it must be really boring, so it must be. Don't do that. Talk about it in your real life. So when I go out walking my dog, I will basically do my Italian session at the same time. For example, it's basically integrating it into your real life, because this 5 minutes per day, this routine that you're creating is the glue between you and the new language. The new language needs to be part of your new life, part of your new life, meaning it becomes something that you integrate into your life. And actually, it's true what I just said. It becomes a new life because every language you assimilate, you acquire, will create a little bit of a different you as well. Check out the video that I have online on identity shift and identity change, because with every language, you change a bit how you feel about yourself and how you are. It's not for me, it's not the character itself, you stay the same person, but it's the way of being, the patterns of thinking, because every language is a different way of thinking and relating to reality. It's the way of making sense. And these things change actually by acquiring a language. So this integrating it into your real life is a completely different way of looking at language learning. It's not studying, it's not memorizing. So many of my students also come to me and say, you know, at my age, I'm not really that good in memorizing. I'm like, okay, but you're only studying a language. It's not memorizing. It's actually acquiring a new way of being, a new way of thinking. So do you see what I mean by this? It's actually a mindset shift, how you relate to the act of doing what you're doing, acquiring a new language. So this is day 3, and what I invite you to do is spend a little time with yourself, how you usually talk to yourself when you think about your language learning, and try to cut out those, I call it, yeah, negative self-talk about language learning. It's kind of like, for me, it used to be like this. Oh God, I have to study again the grammar. And if I think about studying the grammar, that's definitely a behavior or an experience I don't want to have. I don't want to repeat that. So this leads us on nicely to day number 4, where we need to link language learning to another essential element, which is experience. Experience means you need to link we talked before about this thing that makes you feel good, so the enjoyment anchor. This one needs to be linked to some sort of social experience. Remember, I'm a social psychologist, so when I actually realized this element, it changed everything for me. Language is, for us human beings, our main means to communicate and to experience social life. So, when you practice and when you acquire new language, it only will stick in your brain if it serves you for social experience. So the social experience in the learning needs to be present every day. Otherwise, it becomes something that is only written on that piece of paper and it never becomes part of your social experience. So what you can do is the simplest form of social experience while studying a language or while acquiring the language is actually moving. I do that constantly in my language courses. We actually laugh a lot, the participants and I, in the language courses, because they always come after a long day of work and they say, oh, now Alex will make us move around again. But yes, I make the students move around because why? Once we move or we have a social experience while saying that sentence of the day, it will stick. And you know why? Because you have experienced something with that sentence. It served you to actually surmount, or it served you to actually live a social situation. So last week, actually, in my last course with English and German students, I had a very fun exercise before they actually went into our usual study room. I had them play the situation that they are security agents and they need to ask the other students arriving for their purpose of coming to this course, and this all was in the target language. And later on, they actually said to me, yes, of course, I will remember that sentence now that I said to ask the other people for, okay, do you have your ID? Do you have your papers for proof that you actually are enrolled in this language course? It was a funny social experience to actually memorize certain phrases. And in this case, you memorize without memorizing, if you know what I mean. It's kind of, there's a social expectation that we think memorization happens when sitting down with a book in this kind of position and you then need to read, and that's memorization. That's not it for language. Memorization needs to happen without thinking you're memorizing, if you know what I mean. It needs to happen with movement, with experience, with your brain going, I need this. There needs to be need for the language to use it to communicate, to survive a social situation. So this is day 4. So spend day 4 about thinking what can be the activities you can use to create that experience. And this leads us to day number 5, when actually I want to recommend you also, and this is one of the secret tips that I have in my courses. Many students come to me after the course and say, but I don't really have a need yet because I'm not moving to the country, I'm not traveling yet, so there is no need for me to use the language in my everyday life. Okay, so what I respond to that is you need to create that need. Meaning, if you haven't got a study partner or somebody to talk to in a target language, you need to create that need by either signing up for a course where there is a lot of social interaction, or you go on one of these perfect study platforms online where you can find either study partner or somebody in a language course that can converse with you. So you create that need, if you know what I mean. Or what I do a lot in everyday life, if I have a person that who already speaks my target language, and I meet the person, for example, at the moment with Italian, I met recently a new neighbor here in the in my quartier in my block, and he is Italian. So I was like, "Oh, that's so great! You need to create a need for speaking." And I said, "Can I practice with you just two sentences in Italian?" He said, "Yes." I exchanged that sentence, and I mean, this sentence I will not forget. I have memorized it very quickly because I needed it to converse with that new neighbor. Now, that also, I mean, this is for your day 5, but that also is something that is a principle of how you can study brain friendly. You need to put, and this leads us to day 6. Day 6, you need to kind of think how can you integrate as many repetitions as possible into your daily routine. Repetitions meaning you need to have in place a kind of routine in those 5 minutes where you repeat as many times as possible the new sentence. So saying it once will create that memory, will create that your brain saying this is important, but then don't leave it there. Repeat it at least, for me, it's always at least 7 times. So either you split it up and say, okay, this sentence I will include in my 5 minutes all the next 7 days, or you say it once 7 times, or you play the same routine or the same situation with a person with your study buddy 7 times. This is actually, I mean, as repetition is an element that you need to you need to play around with that. How does repetition fit better in your life? So is it better on the first day that you do repetitions in 5 minutes, or is it better over the course of the next 2 weeks? Play around a bit and see how you feel. Again, that leads us back to the first day or the first principle where I said you need to find that enjoyment anchor. Only what makes you feel good is good for you. And now, finally, day 7. This is something that I usually go back to when I have these kind of moments where I say, no, not now. I can't be bothered. I go, and this is a principle, if you have followed my channel, I always say that this is a principle from the growth mindset. You need to say to yourself, okay, if you feel today is just not the day, but otherwise you want to, but you can't just lift yourself up, say, okay, instead of 5 minutes, I'm going to go really small. I'm just going to do 1 minute because 1 minute is better than nothing. This is so much growth mindset because even those 1 minutes that you spend on those bad days will add up to something. So believe me, that works as well. I actually also sometimes, if I have very hectic days, I sadly enough, I don't have time for 5 minutes. I do 1 minute per day. This is why I call the Everyday Nano Method 1 minute per day, because that's kind of the smallest I can go. And the smaller, the better. For me, the success criteria is not to skip a day, because it's kind of like, I want to get there. I want to be fluent in my 5th language. So here you have it. Those are the 7 steps. Now, please, as I said, drop a comment, give your objective, and on these 7 steps, I mean, if you have saved this video, you can pause after each step and let me know every day how you're going with this, and maybe also, and this would be awesome if you could provide also some experience from your life or what you would like to add on to, because this is something I'm really passionate about. The more we share our wisdom on this platform, the better we get, all of us, the better we lift each other up all together. And of course, for those of you who are new, who watched this video as the first video on this channel, please subscribe and have a look at my website. There is this guide for the perfect study routine that actually summarizes what I have just said in this video. So check it out and let me know how it's going for you. And above all, have a good day. See you in the next video.